Welcome to another deep dive. We take your sources and, we just try to extract the most interesting knowledge nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
And today we're diving into something fascinating. It's about how ancient bacteria communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Okay.
get this.
Okay.
It works just like AM radio.
Seriously?
I know.
That's wild.
So we're going to be exploring this mind-blowing finding. And this is all based on an article that one of our listeners sent in from scitechdaily.com.
Okay.
It's scientists discover radio-like communication in ancient bacteria.
Mm-hmm.
And it was published on December 9th, 2024.
Okay.
Pretty recent.
Wow. Yeah, that does make you kind of rethink what simple life forms are.
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So before we get to the radio part,
Okay.
let's set the stage here. We're talking about cyanobacteria.
Right.
What can you tell us about these ancient organisms?
Well, cyanobacteria are a group of photosynthetic bacteria, and they've been around for a really, really long time, like about 2.7 billion years.
Wow.
Yeah. And they're super important to Earth's history. They had a big role in producing oxygen through photosynthesis, which basically shaped the atmosphere that we breathe today.
Oh, wow. So they're like the original environmental engineers.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But the AM radio connection,
Yeah.
I'm really struggling to wrap my head around that.
Yeah, I get it.
How could bacteria be using a technology
Right.
that we think of as like human communication?
Right.
Yeah.
It is kind of surprising when you first hear it, but it's actually pretty straightforward when you break it down. Just think of like each cell division in the bacteria. Think of that as like a pulse of energy.
Okay.
And those pulses happen at regular intervals, just like a radio wave would.
Oh, okay.
And that acts as the carrier wave in our AM radio analogy. So to transmit information, you need to vary the strength, the amplitude of that wave. Think about it like turning the volume knob up and down.
Oh, so they have their own little volume knob.
Kind of.
That's so cool. What controls that?
Well, that's where their internal 24-hour clock,
Okay.
their circadian clock comes in.
Okay.
This biological clock allows them to, regulate their daily cycles. And it also seems to be what controls the strength of those cell division pulses. So it's essentially changing the volume of the signal.
Okay. So we have a steady signal from cell division.
Right.
And then the circadian clock's kind of acting like the volume control.
Exactly.
But what kind of information is being transmitted?
Yeah, that's the big question.
Using this system.
Well, researchers have found that there's a specific protein called RPOD4.
Okay.
And that's really central to this communication system.
Okay.
RPOD4 has a crucial role in gene expression. It basically determines which genes are activated.
Okay.
And the circadian clock changes how strong that RPOD4 production is at each cell division pulse. So it's modulating it.
Okay, so the message is encoded in the strength of the RPOV4 pulses.
Right?
And that message is timed by the circadian clock.
Exactly.
That's a pretty clever system.
Yeah.
Why is this such a significant discovery?
Well, this research really solves a big mystery in cell biology about how cells coordinate different rhythms. The cell cycle and the circadian clock, they operate on totally different timescales, and this radio-like mechanism shows how those two crucial processes can actually work together in perfect harmony.
It's like a finely tuned dance.
Yeah.
Inside each tiny cell.
It is.
What are the broader implications of this?
Right.
Like understanding this bacterial communication system.
Yeah.
Could it have applications beyond just basic biology?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this discovery could really change things for fields like synthetic biology and biotechnology.
Really?
Yeah. Like, for instance, imagine if we could, manipulate the circadian clocks of crops to make them tougher, more resilient to climate change, or even just to boost how much they grow.
Wow, that's incredible. It sounds like we're just scratching the surface of what's possible here.
Yeah.
But how did researchers even figure out
that
bacteria were using this AM radio system in the first place? Like, what were the clues that led them down this path?
Well, it all started with careful observation. Scientists were looking at how much of that RPOD4 protein was being made in cyanobacteria.
Okay.
And they noticed that it was being produced in these pulses that were synchronized with the cell division cycle.
Okay.
But the interesting part is that the strength of those pulses, think back to our volume knob analogy.
Yeah.
That was changing over a 24-hour period.
Oh, wow.
So that cyclical variation really made them think that the circadian clock had to be involved. They realized that what the bacteria were doing was really similar to AM radio.
Okay.
a carrier wave, which in this case is cell division, and then the amplitude is changing to send information.
So they saw the pattern, and then the AM radio analogy just clicked.
Yeah.
But how did they prove that the circadian clock was, actually involved?
Right. Well, they were really smart about it. They messed with the bacteria's circadian rhythm on purpose.
Okay.
And then they watched what happened to the ARPU-D4 pulses.
Okay.
And the results were very clear.
Oh, cool.
When they changed the circadian clock, the strength of the signals changed.
Wow.
That proved that the circadian clock was really acting as the DJ, controlling the volume of this communication system.
That's pretty amazing detective work.
It is.
It makes you wonder, why didn't we discover this type of communication earlier?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Was it a technology limitation?
That's a big part of it. Yeah. I mean, to observe these tiny processes.
Yeah.
At the single cell level, you need really precise measurements.
Right.
And really sophisticated tools, which we're only just now developing.
So this discovery isn't just about the ingenuity of the researchers.
Right.
It's also about how far technology has come.
It's both, definitely.
Yeah. It's exciting to think what other secrets we might find with even more advanced tools.
Oh, yeah. I mean, who knows what we'll discover next?
Right.
This is just the beginning.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, well, we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And we'll be back soon to continue exploring this amazing bacterial communication system.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we're back and ready to kind of pick up where we left off.
Right.
We were talking about some of the applications of this bacterial radio, right?
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like we're maybe on the verge of some pretty big breakthroughs.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, when you start to think about how we could actually use this communication system, it gets really exciting. It could completely change things in synthetic biology, for example.
Okay, yeah. So synthetic biology, can you remind us what that is again?
Sure, yeah. So synthetic biology is all about engineering biological systems.
Okay.
Either to do completely new things or to make them better at what they already do.
Okay, so kind of like reprogramming them.
Yeah, exactly. Think of it as giving them new instructions.
Okay, so can you give us a more concrete example?
Yeah, of course. Imagine if we could actually program bacteria to send specific messages to each other.
Okay.
Or even to other cells in our bodies. We could basically create totally new signaling pathways.
Wow.
And that could be huge for medicine, for instance. Think about delivering drugs right where they need to go.
Okay.
Or controlling how they're released. Super precise,
Oh, wow. So instead of just turning genes on or off,
right,
we could send, way more complex instructions.
Yeah, exactly. We could write whole new programs, basically.
Wow. So what else? What other kind of things could we do with this?
Oh, so many things. We could even engineer bacteria to sense, pollution in the environment.
Oh, right.
And then they could send a signal to tell us about it. So they'd be microscopic little watchdogs.
Oh, that's cool. So it sounds like we're talking about a whole new era of biocommunication.
I think so, yeah.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
But before we get too carried away with all the futuristic stuff.
Okay.
I'm curious about how did researchers even discover this AM radio system in the first place?
Yeah.
What were the clues?
Well, it was a combination of really paying attention to detail and being clever about how they approached the problem.
Okay.
So they were studying this protein, ARPU-D4, in Cyanobacteria.
Right. The one that's tied to the cell division.
Exactly. And they noticed that it was being made in these pulses that were synced up with the bacteria's cell division cycle.
Okay.
But here's the thing. The strength of those pulses, remember our volume knob analogy?
Yes.
That was changing over a 24-hour period.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that kind of regular up and down pattern really made them think that the circadian clock had to be involved somehow. And then they realized that what the bacteria were doing was actually really similar to how AM radio works. You have the carrier wave, which in this case is cell division, and then the amplitude changes to carry information.
So they saw the pattern, and then that's when the AM radio idea came in.
Yeah, exactly, like a light bulb moment.
That's pretty cool. So how did they actually confirm, prove it?
Well, they got really hands-on with it. They actually messed with the bacteria's circadian rhythm.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They intentionally disrupted it.
Okay, to see what would happen.
Yeah, exactly. And they wanted to see what that would do to the RBD4 pulses.
Okay, and what happened?
Well, the results were really clear.
Okay.
When they changed the circadian clock, the strength of the signal changed too.
Wow.
So that was the final piece of the puzzle. It confirmed that the circadian clock was basically acting as the DJ.
Wow, so it's controlling the volume of the whole system.
Exactly, like fine-tuning the whole communication process.
It's pretty amazing how they figured all that out.
It is, yeah. It's a really elegant experiment.
It kind of makes you wonder, like, why didn't we figure this out sooner?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, a big part of it is that we just didn't have the technology to see it before.
Right, because it's all happening at such a tiny scale.
Exactly. I mean, to actually observe these processes happening inside a single cell, you need incredibly precise tools.
Right.
And we're only just now developing those.
So it's not just about the researchers being smart.
Right.
It's also about the tools we have available.
It's both, yeah. The technology has to catch up to the ideas.
That's really interesting. And it's kind of exciting to think about what we might be able to discover with even better tools.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, who knows what else is out there waiting to be found?
Right.
We've only just scratched the surface.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. But, we were talking about all the potential applications of this.
Right.
And I guess one of the big questions is, how do we actually crack the code?
Yeah. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, it's like we've stumbled upon this amazing communication system, but we don't speak the language yet.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so figuring that out is going to be key.
And then, I guess on top of that, there's also the whole issue of making sure it's safe, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, safety is paramount. We have to be really careful that we're not accidentally creating some kind of a problem.
Right, like some kind of bacterial radio wave that goes haywire.
Exactly. We don't want to disrupt the environment or create a health hazard.
Yeah.
We have to be very cautious about how we proceed.
Yeah, that makes sense. But let's take a step back for a second. Like, what does all of this tell us about life itself? About how it works?
Well, I think it really challenges our assumptions. We tend to think of bacteria as simple organisms, but here they are, using a system that we, with all our technology, only recently figured out. It kind of makes you wonder what else we've been missing.
Right.
And it highlights how interconnected everything is, even at the microscopic level. I mean, life finds a way to communicate even when it seems impossible.
It's kind of humbling, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It reminds us that we still have so much to learn about the world around us.
Definitely. And it's a testament to the power of research, like all those different disciplines coming together to make this discovery.
Absolutely. It's a perfect example of how collaboration can lead to breakthroughs.
It's like we need a whole orchestra to play the symphony of science.
Exactly. You need all the different instruments to create the full sound.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
What's the one thing you really want our listeners to take away from all of this?
I think the most important thing is to never underestimate the power of nature.
Okay.
Even the smallest, seemingly simplest organisms can hold incredible secrets. And this bacterial communication system is a perfect example of that.
Right.
It has the potential to revolutionize so many fields, but it also serves as a powerful reminder of the incredible complexity and beauty of the natural world. And we have to keep exploring it with open minds.
That's really well said.
Thank you.
And on that note, we're going to take a quick break. But we'll be back soon to wrap up our exploration of this amazing topic. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into this incredible bacterial communication system.
It's amazing to think that these tiny little organisms that we usually just think of as like simple, basic life forms.
Right.
They're actually using something that's so similar to what we use for radio.
Yeah, it really changes how we think about complexity in life, doesn't it? I mean, this communication system, it seems simple on the surface, but it has the potential to unlock some really incredible advances in fields like medicine and agriculture.
Absolutely. And before the break, we were discussing how important collaboration was for this discovery. All these different scientific fields coming together.
Yeah, exactly.
It really seems like a perfect example of how that can lead to these breakthroughs.
It really is. I mean, this research wouldn't have happened without biologists, physicists, engineers, so many different people working together. It just goes to show how important it is to look at scientific questions from lots of different angles. Yeah, like each field brings their own, instrument to the orchestra.
That's a great analogy.
And then when they all play together,
yeah,
we get this incredible symphony of understanding.
Exactly.
But let's shift gears a little bit and think about the bacteria themselves. Like, what does this tell us about how they evolved?
Well, it suggests that they might be way more sophisticated than we thought. To develop and refine this kind of intricate communication system over billions of years, that's pretty remarkable. It really shows the power of natural selection and how adaptable life can be, even at the microscopic level.
It's pretty humbling when you think about it. We're still uncovering all these complexities of nature, And there's probably so much more we don't even know about yet.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you really want our listeners to walk away with?
I would say stay curious. This discovery is a perfect example of how amazing insights can pop up in the most unexpected places. And we should never underestimate nature. Even in the smallest, simplest organisms, there can be incredible secrets hidden there. And this biomaterial radio is like a reminder, like a testament to all the wonders that are out there if we just keep exploring with open minds and a thirst for knowledge.
That's beautifully said. It's a reminder that learning is a journey. It never really ends. And every discovery just leads to more exciting paths to explore. We want to thank you, our listener, for sending us the inspiration for this deep dive. We hope you enjoyed it and keep those minds curious because there's always something new to learn out there.